Welcome back to Base Sunday. The recent killings of young black men by the police have sparked protests, have sparked debate, not to mention some great sadness, especially for the African American community. How can a community cope with the added fear, the stress, and sense of persecution? Well, it's a tall order, but our next guest is doing her level best to ease some of that fear. Dr. Theopia Jackson is the Bay Area president for the Association of Black Psychologists, who have bonded nationwide together to give comfort and direction in some troubled times. She joins us this morning to talk about that. How are you?
Wonderful. Thank you for having me.
Oh, it's great to have you here on this Sunday. I know, well, the association has been around for years, right?
Yes, since the early 60s, yes.
Early 60s.
The Association of Black Psychologists.
Well, give us an idea of what you folks do, and then we'll talk about what you've been doing the last few years.
Okay. So the Association of Black Psychologists was designed specifically to meet the needs of African and blacks across the country and across the United States and across more broadly. I'm sorry, I'm very nervous. Can I start over?
Oh, no, we're live right now, so
okay.
You just keep going. You're doing fine.
Okay, my apologies. Anyway, it's a very historical program. We have, you do not have to be a psychologist to be part of it. However, you have to be very intentional about the healing that's needed for black communities worldwide.
And you've just started this program the last few years called the Emotional and Emancipation Circle.
Correct.
What is that?
This is a partnership and collaboration between the Association of Black Psychologists and the Community Healing Network that began at the invitation of the Tuskegee community, where they're wanting to say, how do we as a community take care of ourselves and heal from historical trauma and contemporary trauma that's still going on today? Well, so this was our response.
And let's talk about some of that trauma, because you think of Ferguson, Missouri,
yes.
where the young boy was killed, and then you think of New York, where the man was choked to death, and
Correct.
that was on tape.
Correct.
So young black women, young black men can see this. How do you counsel these people, and how do you talk to them about this?
Well, first of all, I need to say it's a very complex situation, because these are things that are happening to our communities, happening to us, and more importantly, it's also impacting all of America. There's something to be said about what happens for our white officers who somehow forget or can't recognize a child in front of them, but instead have some image of what they think is supposed to be scary. So something has gone on in our country for a very long time, that to be black is to be scary or to be inferior, and so it's touched us in many ways. And for many people in our community, we have bought into that hype. And so the emotional emancipation circles are intended to be a self-healing and a self-determination process of trying to rid ourselves of the psychological liberation of buying into some idea that to be black is to be bad.
I was relating a story to you. A colleague of mine in Boston, African-American reporter, went in, covered a story on a heist at a liquor store.
Yes.
And did a great job. And the next couple days later, went in to buy a beer.
Yes.
Had a totally different experience with the very same man he had interviewed that owned the store. Got the eyeball through the whole store. Can I help you? That kind of thing. You know, I've never walked a day in your shoes, but after hearing his story, it just resonated. You know.
What also comes up too is for many, many mothers of black young boys and brown boys, there's almost a fearfulness of, at some point, my child is going to walk the streets and someone's going to miss their humanity and see him as some scary image and forget that this is a human being. Yeah. And that's a scary thought to have, and it's been going on in our country, actually worldwide, for years. And the emotional emancipation circles are supposed to be trying to help alleviate that, to remind us of what we know to be true, which is that we do have our own capacity of recognizing our excellence and not buying into, not perpetuating the myth and adding to the complexities by acting in a non-humanizing way.
And how do you do that? How do you do that with young black men and young black women?
Well, first and foremost, the modules themselves are predicated upon 7 important principles or core values, if you will. And they're meant to be a safe space and place for people to come together and tell their stories, like the one that your colleague just went through, about what does it mean to experience yourself as a educated, intelligent, good human being, and then to walk into a store and be treated differently. There's a certain level of rage and go along with that, a certain level of the potential of saying, I'm not going to ever be good enough, they're never going to let me through. So the emancipation circles allow people to hear those stories, to be validated, to begin to deal with stepping above and beyond the historical trauma of that type of oppression.
And quickly, if you can, why is behavior so hard to change?
Well, there's a number of different factors that add into this. As I said, it's a very complex situation. It is more than just the individual's stance of pushing back. There are societal things that are in place that can make those barriers even stronger. And we know that from when we look at our communities, that we're more likely to have more liquor stores than we do healthy foods and whatnot. So there are a lot of external factors that can lead into the complex problems of behavior.
We got to stop right now,
Yes.
but thanks so much for coming in. Such a pleasure to meet you. Keep up the good work. Dr. Theopia, and for more information about Association of Black Psychologists, log on to abpsi.org. That's abpsi.org. That's it. We'll see you again next week, folks. Take care.